Australia's Stolen Generations, Assimilation, Apology, and Ongoing Injustice. From the late 1800s to the 1970s, the Australian government had a policy of forcibly removing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children from their families.
Um, yeah, so obviously he was taken from his beautiful mother, who I deeply connect with, and unfortunately, yeah, he was taken away from her, not at her choice, which is horrible, and I was able to also visit her grave this year, passing through Tennant Creek, and not seeing Dad's name on there it was tough. It was tough. I think the conversations around stolen generations could definitely be better, but we're still here and we're strong and we're getting through all of it together.
These children were placed in institutions, missions, and white foster homes, told to forget their culture, their language, and their identity. This policy produced what is now known as the stolen generations. Today, we're going to break down the history, the numbers, and the question that still haunts Australia. Can a settler government ever truly repair what it destroyed? Firstly, what were the residential institutions? From around 1910 to 1970, Australian state and federal governments, along with churches and welfare groups, systematically removed Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children from their families. These children were placed into government-run training homes, church missions, white foster families or institutions. And what was the goal? To assimilate them by force into white society. This included banning Indigenous languages, cutting ties with kinship networks, and in some cases, training children as domestic servants or laborers. How many children were taken? Estimating the full scale of the removals is difficult, but based on the 1997 Bringing Them Home report, the numbers are staggering. Between 1 in 3 and 1 in 10 Aboriginal children was forcibly removed from their families. That's tens of thousands of children across several generations. Some regions, like New South Wales and Western Australia, had particularly high rates of removal. This trauma didn't stop with the children who were taken. It created intergenerational grief, loss of culture, language, identity, and trust. These removals weren't random. They were written into law. State laws gave child welfare authorities sweeping powers to declare children neglected or at risk, often for just being Aboriginal. In some cases, parents had no legal rights to object. The practice was underpinned by a white supremacist belief that Indigenous peoples were dying out and that assimilation was a form of rescue. In truth, it was cultural genocide, and the white settler government knew it. So what's the lasting impact?
For the pain, suffering and hurt of these stolen generations, their descendants and for their families left behind, we say sorry. To the mothers and the fathers, the brothers and the sisters, for the breaking up of families and communities, we say sorry. And for the indignity and degradation thus inflicted on a proud people and a proud culture, we say sorry.
The consequence of these policies still shape Indigenous lives today. According to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare and the Healing Foundation, Members of the stolen generations are nearly twice as likely to experience poor mental health. They are 3 times more likely to be incarcerated. Their descendants face higher rates of poverty, homelessness, and suicide. This isn't just a past injustice, it is a living legacy. On February 13, 2008, Prime Minister Kevin Rudd issued a formal apology to the stolen generations. We apologize for the laws, the policies of successive parliaments and governments that have inflicted profound grief, suffering, and loss. It was a powerful moment, but for many Indigenous people, an apology without justice, compensation, or structural change rang hollow. Unlike Canada's $5 billion settlement with residential school survivors, Australia has no federal compensation scheme. A few states, including New South Wales, Tasmania, and South Australia, have introduced limited redress programs. For example, Tasmania offered up to $5 million in total, with payments capped at $60,000 per person. New South Wales Stolen Generations Reparations Scheme offered $75,000 per survivor. But many survivors say the process is slow, re-traumatizing, and grossly inadequate. The federal government still refuses to implement a national reparations scheme, despite repeated recommendations from inquiries and Indigenous advocacy groups. Settler governments versus Indigenous sovereignty. This isn't just about the past, it's about power. Australia is a settler colonial state. That means the same government that stole the children still controls Indigenous land, law, and policy. In 2023, a national referendum to enshrine an Indigenous voice to Parliament failed. It was meant to be a modest step towards inclusion, not even sovereignty, but it was rejected. The message was clear. Many settlers were not ready to share power, even symbolically. The story of Australia's residential institutions isn't ancient history. It's the foundation of modern Indigenous settler relations and a test of national integrity. Without land back, without structural change, without listening, reconciliation is a performance. If Australia truly wants justice, it can't just apologize. It must give back what was stolen, not just the children, but dignity, land, and power. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, please drop a comment, especially if you're Indigenous or connected to this history. And let's continue this conversation with care and truth. Thank you.